Emotional content is filmed on Whadjuk Noongar land. This podcast acknowledges the traditional owners and custodians of country. Always was, always will be, Aboriginal land. This episode contains discussions of suicide, sexual assault and other challenging life experiences that may be distressing to some listeners. Please take care when listening. For immediate support, contact Lifeline on 13 11 14. Additional resources are available on our website at emotionalcontent.com.au. Come for the stories, stay for the connection. I'm your host, Amy Jane Brand, and this is your weekly dose of emotional content. Hey everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Emotional Content. I am so happy that you're here, and I hope you're having an amazing start to the week. This episode is one that I thought would just be like a fun, more relaxed kind of sit down chat with you guys. I feel like I'm starting to get a lot more comfortable when it comes to recording. It feels a lot less foreign to me now, whereas before it felt like it was something that I really had to gear myself up to do before getting into it. So today, I didn't even feel like I needed to take my ADHD medication, which is new. Usually I feel like I really need to have it before recording, but I'm feeling a lot more relaxed when it comes to recording episodes anyway. I haven't even used my iPad for today's show notes. I've just used my phone, which is unusual for me. As you can probably tell what this episode is about from the title, we are going over 20 mistakes that I made in my 20s. And I feel like these can be really interesting because if you're in your 20s at the moment, everyone's always telling you that these are your best years, and I think that's completely false. I feel like your 20s are actually the hardest years. You're really trying to figure yourself out, and people make it seem like after 20, your life's pretty much going downhill. Everybody makes it out as if your 20s are supposed to be the best years of your life, right? But honestly, I can't agree with that. My 30s have been the best years of my life so far. I feel like I know myself more. I understand the path that I'm going down. I'm able to finally love myself and appreciate my worth, which is something that I didn't have in my 20s. And I feel like a lot of people in their 20s do not have those things figured out. So I feel like your 20s are the most chaotic and difficult times of your life. My teen years were really tough as well, but my 20s in particular were really, really rough and chaotic for a multitude of reasons. Some of the mistakes I made in my 20s were huge. Some were really painful, some were funny. But at the end of the day, I really don't live in any regret, and the mistakes are what made me who I am today. So by listing these brutally honest mistakes off, I hope that it can help you feel less alone with your own mistakes. And these will give you some things that you can learn from and hopefully not make the same mistakes as me. I think a good thing to remember is everybody has their own life path, and we're all on completely different timelines. We live in a society now where we are constantly comparing our lives, our appearance, our success against everybody else's online. So I think it's really refreshing to listen to the mistakes people have made in the past and how they learnt from them, to honestly just make you feel so much more understood, because influencers and everybody else in the public eye, celebrities, are all making so many different mistakes behind closed doors, and it's just not really talked about. You see all the highlight reels and then you start feeling really down on yourself. So hopefully by me being brutally honest about the mistakes I've made, this can give you some comfort. So I'm going to start off with the self-worth and confidence struggles that I went through. There was quite a few in this genre, shall I say, this section. So to start off with, number one, I only saw my worth through how I looked and how I was perceived. I strived to always be the best looking girl in the room and felt really competitive about it. Hollywood did not help with this. So I sat down and just got really honest with myself the other day and wrote these out. Exactly how I wrote them is how I'm going to read them. That one in particular really had a hold on me. I obviously was bullied when I was younger, so that was actually always based off of my appearance, and it was mostly by other boys, which really fucked me up. I have talked about it in some previous episodes, but that very much shaped me as a person throughout my 20s, and that is how I perceived my worth completely. When it came to stepping into a room full of other women, especially in America, I did always feel a level of competitiveness. It's not something that I like admitting. In fact, it makes me feel a bit icky saying that out loud, but it is something that is so prevalent in society as a whole. I think so many women feel like that. And it's also because of how we have been pitted against each other for centuries now. We're always compared. We're always pulled apart, specifically by men. The misogyny has made us women tear each other apart as well. I have definitely felt a level of competitiveness to always be looking my best, always be the most desired by other men in the room. I hate saying this out loud, but it's true. It's not how I am at all anymore. But when I was younger, I 100% felt that way. And it all stemmed down to basically being the ugly duckling story when I was younger. I had what I guess people in high school considered a glow up. I started wearing fake tan. I didn't have blonde eyebrows anymore. I had more definition to them because I had tinted them. Literally 2 things that I had done and suddenly I was considered hot. That in particular really messed with me because once that happened and once I was considered good looking to other stupid boys and I let that shit run my fucking world, suddenly the guys that bullied me were interested in me, and that will fuck up anybody's mindset. Also, keep in mind, I didn't have a father that was really present in my life because he was sick. So I was really left to deal with that mentally on my own. So that is why I felt that way. Back when I was living in LA, I remember saying to one of my best friends, fuck, I am so sick of feeling like I need to compete with other women in the room, especially here in LA. And in Hollywood, it just felt even more competitive, way more competitive than what it was here in Australia. And my size 6 to 8 body was considered bigger over there. My body type that was desirable in Australia was suddenly not perceived as desirable in LA. I was considered the curvy one compared to, size 0s, size 4s, I guess you would call that in Australia. So I really felt the pressure over there, and that was something that I had to work through very heavily with my coach when I moved back to Australia at the age of 29. And I said to her in my first call, I really don't want to go into my 30s hating my body anymore and feeling competitive with other women. That was a long-winded answer for that first one, but that really coincides with the other points that I make here. So number 2, I cared way too much about the male gaze. My life was ruled by it, especially after being bullied, which we've pretty much just covered. The male gaze to me was something that I think also drove me into glamour modeling. The thought of all of these people that bullied me seeing me on the cover of Zoo magazine, and I am considered beautiful if I'm on the cover of Zoo magazine, that was a real driving force for me. So it's amazing how much that bullying and how much people's words would fuck me up. It's so sad to think about. Like, it makes me feel quite tearful thinking that such insignificant, pathetic little boys shaped me in such a heavy way, even going into my 20s. So for number 3, I said, I was obsessed with always looking perfect, never going without fake tan or makeup, chasing a perfection that didn't exist. So again, this is where my perfectionism came in like strong from when I was younger. The fake tan situation stemmed from suddenly being perceived as good looking. The fake tan back then was fucking terrible. I think it was Sun FX spray tans, which were like bright orange. And then there was Dove gradual tan that came out when I was in school. Like, they were the first fake tans. If you know, you know. Yeah, if you're a 90s kid, you'll definitely understand what I'm talking about. But yeah, I was slapping orange fake tan on all the time. And that made me feel so much better about myself. It was like a layer of security. It was a mask. And it's something that I still to this day feel better when I have a tan on. I would love to get to a point where I'm not feeling like that about myself and I'm really embracing my paler skin. But right now I'm still not there yet. However, I can say I am not trying to chase a perfection that doesn't exist anymore. Everybody perceives perfection differently. So I've done a lot of healing in that respect, but there are still things that I could improve on. Oh, this is a big one that I think anybody, even going into your late 20s, into your 30s, into your 40s, you'll understand this one wholeheartedly. But number 4 is one I think a lot of us are going to understand. I didn't appreciate my body when I was a size 6 and constantly compared myself to other girls online. Looking back at old photos, I really realize now. Yeah, I used to think it didn't help with the modeling industry at the time because there was quite a few people that told me to lose weight. But I was a size 6 and I still thought I was overweight. I still didn't feel good enough. I remember doing my first market here. When I first came back, I had to get rid of some of the clothes I brought back from America. And I remember picking up some of these jeans that I used to wear all the time, like comfortably. And I was like, how the absolute fuck did I fit into these things? Like I could get one leg into them now. And looking back at old photos, I'm like, holy shit. The way that I just thought I was so overweight at that time. Yes, society played a massive role in that, especially when we were growing up at that time with all the magazines and the horrible things that they would say, like the women's magazines. You'd pick up at the fucking hairdressers and they were just ripping people apart for their weight. It was just awful. Modeling, God, if you were like a size 8 to 10, you were considered plus size. It was just fucking ruthless. Yeah, I never appreciated my body. It's a body that got me from A to B and I should have been fucking thankful for it. I should have appreciated it for what it was then as much as I appreciate it for what it is now. It's really, really sad. And if you can take anything away from this episode listening, please, please, please try to start appreciating your body for what you have. Don't let your body hold you back from doing the things you want to do. One of the main things that I write in my gratitude journal most days is the appreciation for my body because I just spent so many years hating it. Okay, now the next one really starts going into relationships and boundaries. I think a lot of you are going to resonate with this one. Number 5 says, I didn't spend enough time being single and I didn't leave relationships that were no longer serving me soon enough. Oh my gosh. I think I've actually said this in quite a few episodes now that I did not spend enough time being single. I monkey swung from relationship to relationship. I think I had like a couple of months in between relationships. Oh my God. Honestly, just don't do that. I do say in other episodes that I think there's a lot of healing that can happen within relationship, and absolutely. But I was in relationships from before I was 18 all the way up until now. And I really didn't give myself enough time to be single when I was younger. I think I would have liked to have spent more time being single in my early 20s while I was figuring myself out. But I think I put it down to wanting that male figure in my life, wanting that one person, just wanting to have that. Probably stems down to losing my father quite young, going through that trauma at a young age and just having that one person to always kind of walk life with me for that support and that connection is something I've always wanted. But I do wish I took more time for myself in my 20s to understand me, figure out what I want, not compromise so much on my own needs. That was a huge thing. I think you need to spend more time single and figure your own shit out in your 20s, like 100%. Being in relationships all the time, it's just constantly juggling somebody else's shit and not being 100% focused on you, which you need to give yourself in your 20s at some point. It's better to do that. Just give yourself some time in your 20s dedicated to you and your growth. Please, for the love of God, do it. Number 6, I stayed in a relationship when my gut told me I was being cheated on. Ooh, everyone needs to listen to their gut when they think they're being cheated on, especially. And unfortunately, I bypassed that one multiple times. I regret not honoring my self-worth in those moments and choosing to not leave unless I had solid proof. And I think that came down to being manipulated for so long. When you're with somebody that is able to just verbally weasel their way out of things and you get used to that, and that becomes the standard, it is harder to leave as well. They make you feel like you're being over the top. There's a lot of layers to going into that one, but I would never fucking stick around now. If I even have a slight feeling that that's what's happening, I won't be there for it. I won't tolerate it. 100% listen to your gut. If something's off, 99% of the time it probably is. You'll know the difference between your anxiety, overthinking, and you really feel it in your gut. That's from my perspective anyway. I could definitely tell the difference. And there were signs. He just talked his way out of them and I didn't have the proof, so I felt like I was going insane. Okay, this is a bit of a heavier one, but I wrote this down because this really stuck with me. So for number 7, I said, I didn't kick up more of a fuss when my ex's friend tried to force himself onto me, and my ex never confronted him because of their friendship. So yeah, I was in a situation with my first long-term boyfriend. Everybody was on drugs and we were at a house party. It was all going hunky-dory until I was in a room trying to get some stuff out of my bag. And one of his best friends tried to force himself onto me. I managed to get out of the room and I told my boyfriend straight away once it happened, and he didn't do anything about it. I lost so much trust in him when that happened. Him choosing his friend and honoring their friendship over me and my safety and the disrespect that I had just endured and he just endured was wild. And I would never fucking put up with that shit again. If anyone ever was inappropriate to me in any way, I will be voicing it immediately and I will make a fucking huge fuss about it. I didn't know my worth at that time and I should have really walked away in that moment. To be honest, I should have made a huge scene at that party so every single person knew what he had just done. But I think I was very well aware that if I did carry on like that, I would be the one perceived as crazy or over the top or being dramatic, like what a lot of men do to women. But now, oh my gosh, like good luck. Good luck. There's no way that you would be keeping me silenced. And I would never tolerate that type of behavior again from my partner, who's supposed to be my partner, you know, like you should be going bananas over somebody that you thought was your friend doing that to your girlfriend. Like, what the fuck? So for anyone listening that's happened to, that's not okay. And they should never be honoring the friendship over you. And you are worth so much more than that. Whoever you're with should be protecting you and sticking up for you no matter what happens. So I just wanted to put that one in there because I feel a deep sense of sadness for my younger self in that moment, and it came up really strong for me to put in here. So I think it was quite necessary for me to say. Number 8, I let people into my home who didn't respect me. My ex's friends overrode my space even when I owned more of the house than he did. So yeah, this is the same relationship actually. I was living in a house that we had built together. And obviously, like I said before, I had inherited money from my dad passing away and I wanted to do the right thing and invest that into property. So by the time I was 18 and I was with this guy, I was building a house with him. We had built it. And there was a few times where I did not get along with his friends. He had a big group of mates that he went to school with, he grew up with. There were times where I definitely had some pretty strong conflict with his mates. I didn't like some of their behaviour and they were pretty rude with me in different occasions, but my ex insisted that they were still allowed in our home. I think it's all stemming into just not being respected in relationships when I was younger. Looking back at it is quite fascinating because I felt so fucking disrespected. Him just insisting that his friends, after being super rude to me when we were out, are then allowed in our home when I owned more of that fucking house than he did. I had a tiny little mortgage on that thing. I owned basically 50% of that outright and he was allowing these people to come into the home. So I guess in that moment, I felt really walked over. I think I got walked over a lot more than I realised in relationships at the time. Number 9, I had a serious lack of boundaries, always saying yes when I really meant no, trying to avoid disappointing friends and family, which led me to burnout and resentment. I've spoken about this before in my episode talking about how I stopped chasing people's acceptance. So if you do want more information on boundaries and things like that, that episode will be really good for you. But this is a pretty obvious one that I think a lot of us go through in our 20s. We weren't taught boundaries as children. We're not taught it in school. I mean, there's some very light boundaries they teach us, but we're not really taught the core of why we have boundaries, what the benefit is, and how to seriously establish them. So as an adult and in your 20s, you can't expect to know these things. I did feel a lot of resentment when it came to other people because I was always saying yes. I felt like I couldn't fully show up for my friends and family 100% because I was burnt out, which also didn't help and made me feel really frustrated. going into my 30s now, really learning to honor my no is amazing. I feel so much better now. Saying no to invitations when I feel like I should be saying yes, really just honoring my no has made me a happier person. I don't feel resentful towards people. I have strong boundaries now. I don't have to explain why I'm saying no, because when you start implementing boundaries, you often over explain yourself as to why you're saying no. But now I do none of that, and I am such a happier person for it. Number 10, I waited until I was absolutely sick of people before cutting them off instead of speaking up sooner to try and fix or preserve things. That leads into boundaries as well. So I ended up putting up with a lot when it came to friendships, relationships. I let people do things for far longer than I should have let them. And by the time I was sick and done and just absolutely exhausted with it, I'd hit my wall. I would then cut them off, which was me trying to assert a boundary, but not in a healthy way. And because I let things go on for that long, I didn't give an opportunity for me and said person to be able to fix things and preserve the friendship or the relationship. When it comes to the relationships though, I mean, I put up with far too much shit for too long, and I was always going to end up leaving those people. But with friendships, I really do think there was some that I could have either ended on a better note or potentially still been friends with today if I had voiced my concerns and we both were given a chance to work through them. Number 11, I masked my pain and escaped my problems with drugs. Okay, I think a lot of people have been here or are there right now if you're listening, and that's where you're at in your life. I did not deal with my problems in a healthy way. Obviously went through a lot of trauma when I was younger and was exposed to some older people that got me into all kinds of drugs. But I guess I wouldn't have gotten into if I wasn't exposed to those people, I don't think. It depends. I mean, I was in such a bad spot. That's just how I dealt with things at the time. Overall, I do wish that I didn't do those things. Just for my health, my mental health, I don't think it helped me heal at all. Escapism is not something that you want to get good at, and I did, and the tool I used was drugs. So yeah, it's not something that I suggest, because then you get into your later years like myself going into my 30s and I go, fuck, now I really have to tackle this shit head on because I've been running away from it for so long that it's caught up with me. And unfortunately, that's what happens. So it's really a case of dealing with things when you're younger for better years when you're older, or doing it the way I've done it. I'm happy I caught it before 30 though. 30 was really a benchmark for me to get myself into order, and I'm happy that I devoted my time and stayed self-disciplined in order to get to where I am now. Number 12 runs off of that as well. It says, I didn't go to therapy to deal with my grief. I just refused it at the time. Yeah, I did not want to go to any sort of therapy. My mum had tried. When I attempted to take my life on 2 separate occasions, I was put through free counselling after that as well. I just hated it. I just refused it. Mum wanted to put me into a psychologist and get me help, and I refused it, wouldn't turn up, didn't want to go. It was impossible. When you do have any sort of suicide attempt, you have to meet with counsellors and psychologists straight after in the hospital, and they kind of monitor you for a while. It might be the same as an adult, I'm not too sure, but when I was younger, that was the only time I really dabbled with any sort of therapy, and that was forced. So I do wish I threw myself into therapy when I was younger. I think things would have been a lot different for me. And again, I would not have turned to the heavy use of drugs. This is an interesting one. Number 13, I didn't stick to my guns about not trying the harder drugs. Thank God I left Perth to pursue modelling instead. So there's a significant moment that this actually happened. Obviously, when I was younger, in that long-term relationship I was in, the boys in that group and my ex-boyfriend were a couple of years older, and I spent years doing drugs that were a lot lighter, but these guys were getting involved in much harder stuff. And I remember me and my best friend, who was actually dating my boyfriend at the time's best friend, so it was like us 4, she was on the same page as me, not trying the drugs that they were suddenly into. And I said to her, basically, to put it lightly, if you can't beat them, join them. And I really regret that. Not that I got heavily addicted to what we started dabbling with, but looking back, it was just sad that I was in a position where I just kind of gave up on my original morals. And I was like, nope, not going to be getting involved in that stuff, blah, blah, blah. And then eventually just kind of caving because it had been like a year straight of saying no and I just got over it. And I think it stems down to not giving into that peer pressure, which eventually I did. I succumbed to it and it wasn't good for me. It wasn't good for my mental health. It wasn't good for fucking anybody's mental health, but it was something that happened. It happened. I regret it, but I'm definitely not living in regret about it. Number 14, I blew through money with impulsive spending, a major ADHD struggle. Anyone with ADHD, ADD is going to understand that. And I guess neurotypicals as well, like if you've got bad spending habits when you were younger, you'll understand too. That's not like just typical to the impulsivity of my ADHD, but it was something that really was fucking difficult. Like I would get a paycheck and I'd spend it immediately. I spent so much money on Uber Eats in my 20s. It's fucking ridiculous. If you have been using Uber Eats since it started, do not go and look at how much you've spent over the whole time you've had it. It's mortifying. The amount of money wasted. I was living it up on the Uber Eats, which is a huge privilege. I understand that that's a massive amount of privilege, but I impulsively spent. It was so bad. Like I look back at it, I'm not going to say the exact figures. Now I'm so much better. Like I'm so in control of like spending and stuff now. I've really learnt to just live more simply and understand what's important and what isn't. Like I feel in America, I became so obsessed with material things because that's what I was around. And I think who you surround yourself with plays a massive role in how you go day to day with your own life. And the materialism that I picked up from being around a lot of well-off people, famous people, celebrities and stuff, it really changed my view on things in not the best way. And my spending habits mixed with undiagnosed ADHD were pretty fucking bad. That is something that I do regret quite a bit. Save your money. Save your money. Like obviously have fun, but be smart with your money, like especially in your 20s. Be smarter with your money, please. Number 15, I didn't take enough photos when I was younger because I didn't like myself at the time. This one breaks my heart. It's sad, but it's true. I did avoid taking photos when I was younger. This wasn't so much in my 20s. This was actually in my teens, but I wanted to put it in there because if you're feeling shit about yourself or your body or you're lacking confidence and you're not taking photos, you're not jumping in that group photo, you're not living life and capturing those important memories, you're going to regret it. Like just take the photos. Because no matter what, by the time you get older, you will look back at it and you will want those photos and you'll be sad that you don't have them. Oh, number 16, I let life's hardships make me pessimistic, judging myself and others too harshly. That is me being brutally honest. I have touched on this previously. Again, a good episode to go back and listen to is how I stopped chasing acceptance from other people. If you haven't listened to that, you would not be aware that I used to be extremely pessimistic. I called myself a realist at the time, but I was so pessimistic. Like it's actually quite comical looking back at it. I think a lot of people back from when I was younger would remember me, I guess the realist, but it was quite negative most of the time. I would see other people's behaviours and things that they would do and I would judge them harshly based on that. So if they acted a certain way, even one time, I would immediately judge them based on that and I wouldn't really give people second chances. I never really thought about it from a perspective of like, oh, they're being an asshole or they're doing this or they're doing that because it's coming from a place of hurt or pain or they're projecting. I didn't understand any of that back then. And keep in mind, me being so pessimistic and angry stems from a pretty rough childhood and you know, seeing your dad or a parent or a loved one, anyone pass away in your arms at such a young age will make you feel pretty angry towards the world. So I do wish that I had worked on that pessimism sooner and saw it for what it was because I was an angry girl, and that traveled with me right up until I was 29, until I started working on it. Number 17, I protected myself by being intimidating rather than my true, soft and nurturing self. This was a big coping mechanism for me that I didn't realize at the time. But after all the bullying when I was younger and the things that I had seen and been through, it gave me some pretty strong walls that I put up. And I was, like I said before, pessimistic. It runs off of that as well. I just saw the negative side. And I think because I was always trying to protect myself, if I came across intimidating to other people, they would be less likely to fuck with me. And I guess that's just how I survived at the time. But I was such a softie beyond that. Like once people got to know me, they would see a totally different side of me. But my initial stance was always very intimidating. This one, number 18, is like so important. And I can imagine so many of you are doing this. I didn't prioritize my own sexual pleasure, faking it because I wanted to be desirable and seeing sex as a competitive sport. I could do an entire episode on this. This one is so like, oh my gosh. It's hard because obviously I wanted to be desirable. I wanted to be accepted by men. I wanted to be perceived as someone that was like amazing in bed. And not to say that I wasn't good in bed, because I spent so much time wanting to make sure that I was, which again just stems down to wanting to be desirable. But I completely put my own pleasure aside. It always felt like a real performance coming from me. And the only real satisfaction I got from it is knowing that I had done a really excellent job. I think so many women get caught up in wanting to perform amazingly in bed and completely forget about themselves. Even more so with porn and things like that. Growing up when you're younger, you just want to be accepted. If they're going to talk about you, you want it to be done in a positive light. It's fucked. It's actually fucked. I was very performative. I didn't care about my own pleasure. I didn't really understand my own pleasure. I got really good at faking it. The only way that I really got sexual pleasure was with toys. Yeah, it was literally only up until my partner now, Frank, shout out to Frank, who really focused on it being about my pleasure first and always making sure that I get there first before him. And I had never experienced that in my life. Like it was always about the dude. And then I meet Frank and he's just like this fucking unicorn. In bed, yeah, I really learnt myself sexually through him and creating that environment where it was about me too. And there's not many men that do that, but they are out there. I hadn't had that until this relationship. So I went through all my 20s, never prioritizing my own sexual pleasure. And the big problem with this is the more that we do that, the less that they learn. And the next girl is going to suffer as well. So it just enables their selfishness and their shitty performances in bed. I'm going to leave that at that one because I could go on for way too long about it. If you want me to go into an episode solely focused on that, I will. Let me know. I feel really strongly about that one and I feel so sad for my younger self for not speaking up for her own pleasure. Number 19, I didn't take any of my really good advice that I would give to others. Guilty, really guilty for that. I remember being there for people all the time, giving amazing advice and then never taking it myself. I've gotten a lot better at it now. I actually really do try to practice what I preach, especially, with this podcast. If I do any episodes that are giving advice from what I've learned in my own life and things from my perspective, I want to be practicing that wholeheartedly and not just preaching it, which, it works towards my own self-development. And then I'm not someone that is just talking shit. So that was really important. But when I was younger, I did that a lot. I could make people feel on top of the world. I could give them so much support, so much encouragement, so much motivation. And then when it came to me, I had nothing. So it's sad, but that's the truth. Number 20, the last one. I didn't appreciate myself and I wasn't kind to myself, which led me to picking the wrong men. I read this quote once and it hit me like a ton of bricks. A woman's self-worth is a reflection of the man that they choose. When I heard that, I resonated with it so much, and I feel like so many of you will as well. And that doesn't just go for, heterosexual relationships. It relates to anybody. Your partner is a reflection of how you feel about yourself, your self-worth, what you think you deserve. It is a reflection of that. And it's a hard pill to swallow. But that is another reason why I think I picked such shitty men and put up with so much stuff. I just wanted to be in a loving relationship. I just wanted my one person, and my self-worth was not there. So I stuck around for shit that I really shouldn't have. And I regret that. I definitely regret that. But again, it all led me to where I am today. And my life now is an accumulation of all the choices I made previously. So I'm really happy at how far I've come now. And honestly, my younger self would be so proud of me and who I am and the type of work that I'm doing now too. I just feel like I've really found myself. And I really want this to give you some hope as well. Like, I made some really fucking shitty decisions when I was younger. I put up with things that I shouldn't have. I didn't appreciate myself. I didn't love myself. I didn't nurture myself. I didn't focus on healing and working on my mental health. If anything, I spent most of my time self-sabotaging. I hope this can help any of you listening. It's brutally honest. It's raw. I'm being super vulnerable, but I'm pretty relaxed doing it with you guys now because you've been so amazing on this journey with me. And wherever you are in your life right now, whatever age you are, if you're doing any of those things, I hope that this makes you think a little bit harder about potentially working on them and treating yourself with more kindness, because I think we are all way too hard on ourselves and we really don't need to be. I took many risks in my 20s and I don't regret it. I learnt so much along the way and it's made me the person that I am now. So there's no point in me living in regret. It's just wasted energy. I know that people with ADHD do that big time. We tend to look back and go, oh, things could be so different if I didn't do X, Y, Z, but it's not worth it. It's wasted energy. We spend way too much time focused on worrying about the future and regretting our past, that we just don't get present enough in our lives, and we're missing out on all the good parts. We're missing out on what's in front of us right now, and there's always something to be grateful for. So I hope that this can be a bit of a wake-up call or a reminder to you listening today. And to finish up, I would love to know, what is one mistake you made in your 20s that you have learnt from today? I will do a little question box on my Instagram as soon as this episode goes live, so I can share all of your answers anonymously, or feel free to comment it on this episode in Spotify. I would love to see your answers because I think we've all got something that we can learn from. I love you guys so much. Thank you for listening, and I will see you in the next episode. Mwah. Bye. Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed the episode, please give it a share. You never know who might need a little emotional content in their life. For daily feel-good posts, follow @_emotional content on Instagram and TikTok. And don't forget to hit that follow button so you're notified every time a new episode drops. Your support means the absolute world to me.